Welcome to Ctrl+Alt+Debate. This is our first episode that we bring to you today, and we're going to be doing quite a lot of content. We've got about five or so segments. This episode, as you can see, is from Legends to Controversies. I'm your host Gar, and as usual, I'm here with Kraken. Well, as usual, I say it's the first one, right? Hey Kraken, how's it going, buddy?
Hey bud, how's it going?
Yeah, it's good to be here. Bit nervous, first podcast ever, hey? Who thought it? We've been talking for years about this as well. Like, let's do a podcast.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Jump in and do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that myself and Kraken been wanting to do for ages. So we're really happy that we're coming to it. Obviously, though, we're gonna make a couple of blunders. It's not gonna be perfect here. We're gonna probably say a few stupid things, but hey. Hopefully the content's exciting and interesting. We'll be covering a lot of stuff. Just to go over quickly over to today's segments that we've got set up. We're going to start with the launch pad, we call it, which is just looking at this week's releases. A couple of releases. We haven't going to go over every single game. We're going to be looking at Dynasty Warriors Origins and Final Fantasy VII's release Rebirth on PC. So we'll be looking a little bit at that. After that, we'll be talking about Asmongold. Okay, everyone knows Asmongold, right? He's the big streamer. But myself and Kraken, we actually have quite a big opinion on him. So we want to go into those details and how we feel about him and give our reasons for the way we feel. And, obviously we'd love to hear what your opinions are on that as well. So yeah, that's to come. Then we're going to go into the old DEI. Ooh, it's like Voldemort, isn't it? Don't mention it. But
yeah, terrible.
But it is.
When done wrong. Let's be fair.
Yeah, when done wrong. Like, there's a lot of potential with it if it had been used in a more constructive manner. But we'll be going into details about that as well. So DEI is going to be on the segment on the podcast. We'll then be looking at Elon Musk's PoE2 boosting. I mean, it's quite a bit of old news, but I think because it's the first episode, I thought we'd cover it because it's funny. It's funny as hell, isn't it? I mean, Elon Musk and PoE master gamer and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of funny. And then I watched the videos of it. People basically taking the mick out of him. So we're going to cover that and give our opinions on that. And that's pretty much everything for today. So we can jump right into the first segment of the podcast, which will be looking at the game releases. So the first one we're going to look at is Dynasty Warriors Origins. Obviously, this game's been around for a while, Dynasty Warriors. I mean, hell, you and me used to play it back in the day, didn't we?
Oh yeah, way too much.
Like, what was it?
We sunk many hours into those games.
Yeah, like late 90s, was it? The first? Was it PS1? First one?
Yeah. No, PS2 I think was the first one.
Oh, is it PS2? Yeah, so early 2000s then, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's gone through so many iterations over the years. It's kind of crazy to think it's still going to these days, and it was kind of a bit of a rinse and repeat formula for me personally. I love the original games, but it got a bit boring after a while, sort of later down the line. But Origins looks actually quite promising from what I've seen of it. They've updated the game quite a bit. Have you had a chance to take a look yourself, Kraken?
I had a quick look. It does look very nice. It looked quite crisp. It does look like they've changed, how the random mobs actually render in, which is quite good. It looks good. I'm curious to see what the gameplay side of it, the gameplay aspects are. I did enjoy in one of them. There was the weapon upgrade system, picking your own weapon for your character that wasn't always the main one, if you know what I mean. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, it does look like it could be a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, my view is that it's a more modern look to it. I've looked a little bit at the gameplay as well, and the combat does look more entertaining. I mean, the reason looking back was the main problem with Dynasty Warriors was we didn't have the graphical processor to be able to put 300 people, 500 people have them, and it was just like the processor would have a meltdown. So we're kind of at the point where we can kind of do that now, at least a bit better than before. So on that side, I think we're much better. I mean, I think we'll give it. It's going to be a much better opportunity. I think I watched Asmongold playing it as well, and he seemed to really enjoy it. And I don't think he's played any previous Dynasty Warrior games to it, so it's obviously going to be played by a sort of a new generation as well, which I'm really happy about because I had a lot of fun playing when I was younger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The co-op ones in the later versions were brilliant as well.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk about the co-op, man, because rage.
Why not?
I mean, bloody Lu Bu and his on it. No, come on, that guy was ridiculous. Like Lu Bu, like he's come out and you'd be murdering everyone, and then Lu Bu would come out of nowhere and just start smashing you to pieces. It was infuriating.
Yeah, he was a bit of a cheat character, really.
Yeah, and then you unlocked him and you just go around just murdering everyone. It was awesome. But I just remember him being like the absolute ridiculous character, especially on the harder difficulties. He was just like, you saw him, you were like, let's get the hell out of here now.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna hang around.
I remember enjoying that Zhao Dun, the guy with the big chunky sword. You know the one?
Yeah,
Ponytail, chunky ass sword.
Eye patch. The guy with the eye patch, right?
Yeah. Beast moves.
Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, they're all actually like from actual real characters, aren't they? From history, yeah. So
Chinese history, yeah.
Yeah, Chinese history. That was it. The Three Kingdoms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Three Kingdoms, right? I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time since I played Dynasty Warriors properly. I think it was like Shu was one, which was the green one. It was green. I remember it was Shu. I can't remember the other two like off the top of my head. I'd have to have a deep dive on that because it's been a while since I played. But it was obviously from 3 different areas, and then you had characters from each of them, and there was loads. Zhao Dun, I remember being one of them. They had like Dian Chan or something. I mean, this is going back quite a while. Who else was in it? I can't remember it. But Guan Yu, yeah, the dude with the big halberd. Was it halberd?
Yeah.
He's like Chinese legend as well, so he's kind of big as well.
Yeah.
Those kind of the main, and then it was like obviously Lu Bu, and then you had like the leaders as well. And I'm trying to remember them. Cao was one of them. I remember him.
Yeah, Cao, yeah.
But I mean, without going through them all, because I think we'd be here till like next millennium if we try and recall all the names. But there was a lot of characters in the game.
But let's be fair, you probably wouldn't pronounce them right either. So
yeah, especially no respect. Sorry, Chinese. If there's any Chinese listeners or people coming from China to listen, sorry if we've completely bastardized the names. Like we did our best to make them sound close to what they're meant to be. But it's our bad.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what's your? Do you think this will attract a new generation of gamers to Dynasty Warriors, based on what you've seen?
Oh, definitely. Let's just hope they don't put too many, like Battle Pass or DLC or anything and copy the other big studios. Because the one good thing about Dynasty Warriors is that, for the most part, it remained pretty pure. You unlocked what you played and unlocked, what you played for, what you completed. It was an achievement within the game.
Yeah.
And that's something that's missing a lot in today's games. So.
I think that's another subject we need to have for another podcast, because I actually is something that I'm really passionate about is DLC. 100%. But we can cover that on another episode, because that is quite a big subject and requires its own little segment, I feel, to sort of do it justice. All right, well, if that's all we got to say about Dynasty Warriors, we can then move on to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the PC release. I got it on PlayStation 5 personally, because I'm an absolute obsessive person with that game. I loved Remake as well. I played like God knows how many 100 hours on that, and then like over 200 on Rebirth. I know you haven't played Rebirth yet, but obviously both of us are we're old enough that we played the original back in '97, so we're big Final Fantasy VII fans. What's your view? Because obviously I'll give my view in a minute, but I'm interested to know what your view is on the remakes in general and like what you feel about them, because you haven't played them really. You played a bit of Remake, I think. But what do you think?
Honestly, I loved the way it was laid out. It was great, but for me, it's the battle system, the loss of the proper, pre-planning. I just preferred turn-based when it comes to RPGs, especially if it's based on one that was a turn-based one. It just didn't, like, the fighting part of it. I wasn't really going in for an arcade action kind of thing, and that's unfortunately mostly what you got. I mean, yes, it was kind of, turn-based mid-action, but it just doesn't feel the same at all to me. I loved the game, the way it looked and everything, but that was one thing that just...
You're coming across
I
as
miss
a
the old school stuff.
purist as
Yeah,
hell.
yeah, maybe I am. Damn.
I'm only
But
joking.
it is you like what you like, it was a shame. I was hoping for the old game, but brought up with modern graphics and everything else the same. But yeah, they decided to play around with it a bit.
I'm sure there's plenty of people that agree with your take on that as well, buddy. Like, you're not going to be the first one, and certainly won't be the last. I've heard a lot of people that wanted just the remake. I mean, that's a slight detour talking about Ever Crisis, because I think Ever Crisis was meant to be what the original Final Fantasy remakes were. That's what people were expecting, but unfortunately, it's gacha. And again, that's another one. I mean, we're already creating the next episode. We got two segments on the next one, so look forward to that, because I think those two will be on the next segments for sure. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that. Let's just quickly the Ever Crisis was meant to be like the story-driven narrative in a modern take, but it's very sort of pixel styled. It's kind of like in the original concept, really, with the storytelling, with some additional story. It's got like backstory to like Sephiroth and stuff like that, which is cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the game, but I don't like the gacha aspect. Was annoying.
Gacha in anything is horrendous.
Yeah, generally speaking, it is. Yeah, that's anyway. Look, we got that on another. I think to next episode we can go into depth with that. Going back to the subject, Final Fantasy 7, I am like the opposing side of your position. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the original as well, but I can look at them in separate manners. Am I a fan of action JRPGs? No, not really. I didn't really enjoy 16 that much. People hyped about that game. Sorry for any Final Fantasy 16 lovers that come to watch this podcast, but sorry, just not for me. I know it's made Yoshi P, right? Everyone, I mean, we're probably going to lose like any people now, because I'm not a massive Yoshi P fan. The guy did 16. The problem was he inserted like MMO styled side quests into it. It was like collect 5 of this and all of this kind of crap, which I am really, really not a fan of. I dislike it thoroughly. So I'm not a fan of a lot of arcade games. Devil May Cry, I haven't really. I mean, I don't mind it, but it's not really something I go.
Yeah, quite a bit back in the day, though. Come on.
Back in the day, but it was more simpler then, But Devil May Cry.
True.
Today's is, I'm not. By the way, I'm not saying again it's not a bad game. It's just something I personally wouldn't play that much. Devil May Cry. I think I played DMC5, but I didn't finish it. Just wasn't me. But. And this is what I'm going. This is the point I was trying to get to, is that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought they did a great job of reimagining the game without being too destructive to the general story. Yes, there's people here that are the purists, and probably people are going to be like, "Oh no, I did this and they did that," and like the whole storyline with Aerith. I mean, I don't want to do any spoilers too much. But I mean, it's not really a spoiler because she kind of dies anyway, which she does in the original, but in a different manner. It's just I think it's Nomura that is. I don't know if he's directing, but he's doing like the story for sure. And we all know what Nomura's like with his Kingdom Hearts storylines, which were absolutely batshit insane. So I hope he doesn't go that crazy in the final installment of the game. That's all I hope for. As long as he stays on point there, then we'll be fine. If he goes off on one of his Nomura kind of tangents and just takes the story to some insanity, then I don't think a lot of people will be very pleased with that. But so far he's done all right. It's not too bad.
And Final Fantasy invading Disney is pretty impressive for a game premise in the first place, but it was great.
Yeah,
I thought the first one was quite good.
And just to touch on the Square Enix thing with the company, I know they had like a really bad year in 2024 financially. They did not hit any of the financial targets that they were planning to hit. So they've done like a whole bunch of differences. They're obviously doing a lot of changes now. Obviously the PC port, from what I've heard, is absolutely fantastic. It's like excellent. So you know, on that side, I'm sure PC players are really happy. From what I saw on Metacritic, it was doing very, very well. I mean, it was at 90. It's probably gone down a bit since then, but I mean, that's good for me. I mean, I'm happy it goes to PC players, like reach a wider audience. I am one of those people that's not. I mean, obviously I'm a bit older as well, but like the idea of just fighting over which platform's better is just silly. Like, as long as you can play all the games, that's what matters. Or cross-platform, even better. The more, the merrier, you know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, you know, I think it's great that they released it to PC now and given it to more people to play. What do you guys think? People watching, and I'd love to hear what your comments are on Final Fantasy VII in general. It's a big subject and there's a lot to really speak about. You go into great detail about the game, the story, the characters. What are your thoughts? What are your best memories from the game, or what do you think about the current releases? And feel free to drop a comment down below and let us know what you think on that. All right, well, if we've got no more anything else to say about that, we can move on to segment 2, which is Asmongold and his influence in the gaming space. Now, this one might be quite a long one because, you know, I have a very big opinion about the guy. I don't know. Let's start with you, Kraken. You give your opinion on Asmongold and what you think, and then I'll embellish on my thoughts afterwards.
I think, you know what, he speaks his mind, and I respect that. And I respect his ability to apologise when he's wrong, and he, you know, he just moves on, and it seemingly most of his audience does too, because that's the way it should be. Like, sometimes people make mistakes, and you know, they own up to them and carry on, and things move on nice and smoothly. It's no problem. So I've got a fair amount of respect for the guy. Whatever people might think of his opinions on certain things, he at least tries to be honest about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, Asmongold, a lot of people hate him. They hate him because he says things that are obviously controversial, and controversy is something that most people in today's day and age, I believe, choose to avoid because they don't want to have to deal with something that someone else might not like. And that's precisely why I like him, because he has an opinion and he sticks to it, and he doesn't you know, he doesn't just try and make everyone happy. And I think that's the silliest thing, is trying to make everyone happy. You're never going to do it. You can get close to doing it, but you're going to be limiting who you are, like, because there's no way you can just cover all of those aspects. You're going to be leaning towards one way or another. Asmongold's take, I mean, he's messed up quite a bit, you know. I mean, he's said some really stupid stuff, and the one that comes to mind immediately is that absurd comment he made about Palestine. I'm not going to go into details, but I'm sure everyone can agree that was just really, really insensitive. And you know, but he was you know, he stood up to that and accepted it and apologized because he knew that he was wrong.
Yeah.
And there's times where he's not apologized, so you know that he means it when he does apologize. When he doesn't apologize, he genuinely will stick to his guns. And I feel that's why people watch him. Probably his haters watch him just as much as his fans, which is why he's so popular. So. Yeah.
If not more so, they probably watch him like a hawk, hoping that he makes a mistake again.
Well, that's true, yeah. Any opportunity to bring him down. But the guy's got like so many people in chat talking about him. Like, I don't think he cares. Like, you know, when I see him read chat, it's really interesting as well, because he tends to like pick something out. I'm like, where is that in the chat? Oh, it's already like 500 like lines up because he's just read something in like slow chat or something. It'd be impossible for him to keep on top of everything people are saying about him in chat because he's got so many people chatting to him.
Yeah,
but
there's always a ton going on in the chat. So
also he's a character, you know. I mean, you know, he plays into it as well. I love the way like things that people do get really pissed off in the chat with him, like when he purposely like pronounces a word wrong. You know he's doing that just to get a million people to go, oh, it's not spelled that way. It's
rage,
not
yeah, rage bait.
Rage bait. He does that loads, and it's funny like how many people in his chat are like genuinely think he's being serious. Like, it's literally
that's great. It's a genuine technique for, you know, streamers to employ to get people to watch them. Like, they choose something that would really annoy someone massively, and there's going to be a bunch of them watching. And they'll probably tell someone, oh my god, you can't believe what I saw today. And then they'll come and join as well, just so they can join in and take the piss. It's how they get the views. and it's one of many techniques I'm guessing they employ. But yeah,
for sure. I mean, he does so much stuff like that though. Like when it comes to, that's how he gets so many viewers. I mean, he is very smart, Asmongold. Like people give him loads of shit about being an idiot and stuff, but he's really not. Like you can say it like that just because you don't like what he says. Like I understand if you don't like what he says, but calling him an idiot doesn't make you right either, unfortunately. The guy...
No, it's not a comeback, is it?
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's got millions of viewers, he's earning millions of dollars, and you're not, or probably not, most likely, if you're sitting in chat, like, just throwing shade on the guy. You know, he's got there from... And then you're going to be like, whoa, he lives like a slob, or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, he does. I mean, but that's like probably the only thing. But that's like probably the only thing you could say bad about the guy is like.
I mean, I'm amazed that he looks so clean, yet his house looks like a bloody bomb's gone off, and then someone threw a ton of hand grenades in as well.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, but I sometimes wonder if he's half doing that on purpose. I mean, people would argue like. Yeah, but before he was famous, though, his house was a mess as well. But I wonder if he just got older and was like, yeah, exactly. It's like people still wanting to know how many like Dr. Peppers he's got lined up on the side of his desk or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like I remember he did a tour of his room once, and it was pretty insane. Like, but it got views, and I just feel like he does.
Unless you made a horror game of him with his house and everything, which I think is absolutely genius.
I think I've seen that. Is that like a video or like it was like a motion graphics thing with his face and stuff?
Yeah.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
I think it's a mod for some game, but it just looked so bloody funny because it was really accurate as well.
Yeah, but I mean, this is what I'm saying. The guy knows what he's doing most of the time, and it's just a lot of people seem to think that he's like a lot of the things that he does is because he's stupid. Where it's just like, as you say, it's just rage baiting people and just purposely trying to get more clicks or more view or keeping people viewing. But behind that, he does have like a very, very clear opinion on things where I feel like he's genuinely speaking his mind on subjects. I mean, he's covering all of the sort of subjects that we're gonna look at. Obviously, we've got DEI coming up, but I'm not going to speak too much about it. But he covers that a lot, and he also looks at other people's opinions on it as well. Which obviously we're gonna. Right, hi Asmongold. By the way, we're here. We're only on episode 1, but if you want to use our content, like you can stream the whole episode. We won't say anything. I mean, imagine if that happened. That would be funny as hell. That's not going to happen. We're lucky if we get 1 viewer in the next 30 days or something. But anyway, but you know, we can dream. We can dream. But yeah, like. The reason I wanted to bring him up is because I think he's a very important streamer in today's gaming culture. I think he drives a lot of what people do in terms of what they play, what they won't play. You know, he's a big advocate of like a lot of the games that I enjoy, like Wukong, Black Myth Wukong, which I played and completed and platinum, did everything. Like, love that game. The sort of games he plays, you know, are really big fans. So you know, what's it that new one that's coming out that I was talking about? Is it Kazan the First Berserker or whatever it is?
Yeah,
I played the demo.
Oh my God. That does look insane.
It is also insanely difficult as well. I played the demo and I was like, damn. I was like, okay, I'm gonna need to like brush up on my skills on this one. I mean, there's someone that's cleared Sekiro and done that as well as Black Myth Wukong, and I found Kazan, the First Berserker, quite difficult in the demo, like the last boss particularly. I think because it's a different style, it's more aggressive. A lot of the other games I played more defensively, and Sekiro obviously has a really good like defense mechanism where you have to just time the blocks and stuff. So, whereas Kazan seems to be like much more based on just like aggressive attacking and killing people quicker as soon as possible. So. I might have to adapt for that game.
Fun game.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's fun for you though, dude. you might end up like smashing the television or something. Like, you know. I mean, now you're not that bad. I'm kidding. Especially not in these day and age where the television is like literally probably like half your year's salary gone down the drain. Or the controllers for that matter. It's like I remember when I was young, you used to have the controllers, and it'd be like $5.99 for like a controller. So you could as a kid you could smash it and it wouldn't be the end of the world. But you do it now, it's like 70 quid for a controller. So it's like no,
not the PS Pro ones.
Exactly.
Holy crap! Like, what the hell have they done to it to warrant that price? I mean, it's an official one, great, cool, but it just seems like so much now. The name is all it is. The electronics are still just as simple inside.
I mean, they've got more complicated stuff because the PlayStation Pro's got like a literally physical mouse built into it. So, you know, and it's got audio. It's got an audio speaker on it. You know, I mean, other than that, though,
Okay.
yeah.
These are all things that have existed for a long, long time, and it's not exactly hard tech.
No, I just don't know how much time, how much space. I mean, I'm not an expert in that kind of field, but I would imagine all of these components take up space inside a controller.
Of course they would, but not by much. And I mean, by much at all. Like, if you've ever taken apart a laptop, the bit behind the touchpad, it's only a very small amount of circuitry for it. And if you're then shrinking that down even further because you're a massive tech giant like Sony, you probably got a chip that's, I mean, I can't even guess how small it is, but it will be practically non-existent, the one that controls it.
I mean, I don't know. All I know is the PS5 controllers. They're fairly chunky. You know, they don't feel light. And I can only assume that's down to just like amount. Also, things like what's it called? I mean, we're getting a bit off topic here, but like you know, rumble packs, for instance, on the controllers.
Yeah.
Like they're much more specific now than they used to be. You know, if you talk about the ones that was it PS2 that had rumble pack, first one.
Yeah, it was just two of those old engines in there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
With a
literally
little
just buzzed the whole controller. Whereas now
Mm.
it's like you can get it actually feeling on specific things. Also, you got those control pad the control buttons when you like, you know, if you're shooting a gun and stuff, and it will like make it like so it's hard to push down and stuff. I mean, I don't know how any of that works. I just know it's cool.
Yeah, to be fair, that does sound really cool. And I'm to be honest, like I'm yet to try one out, so I can't really comment on it. But the prices of things, let's be honest, that's all we're talking about. It has gone up to drastic levels. I mean, even when you buy a game, you haven't got the full game anymore. So you know, it's one of those. That's all.
Yeah, I mean the DLC thing is like a big subject which we'll cover on the next episode, I think for sure, because I think that I mean, to be honest, that's probably something you could talk about for the entire episode because it's such a massive subject and there's so many and the way that it infiltrated gaming as well, it really needs its own sector. So we can talk about that the next time. But just returning back to the subject that we're on Asmongold, you know, what's your opinions on influencers in general in the industry, you know, on like YouTube or Twitch and stuff? Like, the way that they influence people's gamings, do you feel it's net positive or negative, like in your opinion?
I mean, it can swing both ways, because obviously you can get some of those influencers that are, let's say, bought for a company that is really crap. Let's be honest, and they will promote in just as much of a positive manner as someone who's promoting a game that was actually made by a good company. So overall, it's a bit, you know, there'll be positives over there and negatives over there. But I think overall, it's a good thing because you can kind of pick them out over time. You know, you start to recognize stuff.
Yeah.
The overacting and whatnot. But yeah,
I mean,
it's a good thing. I mean, it's brought about new industries, doesn't it? Really, the
yeah,
whole streaming thing has fully become an industry.
yeah. I mean, obviously, people have more influence though are going to determine things. I mean, we're going to get onto that actually.
Yeah.
Moving on, we can move on to the next subject because that's, I think, very pertinent in what we're discussing now. But before we do, if anyone's got any opinions on Asmongold, we'd love to hear what you'll think. Are we right? Are we wrong? If not, please feel free to let us know what you think and leave them in the comments below. Let's move on then to the next segment, which is DEI in gaming. Now, DEI in gaming has a lot of problems, and anyone that thinks that it's a good thing, like in its entirety, as far as I'm concerned, is seriously misguided because DEI, I think...
The problem is the idea, isn't it? Let's be fair. The idea is a good one. But then you've got the people that are misinterpreting it as it needs to be flooded.
Well,
that's not helping anyone. It's just driving away the larger audience to make a select few feel like they're being included, but really they're just being included in something of their own. Especially if you're talking about like Concord, it's kind of silly, isn't it? Because You want everyone to want to play, so you need someone for everyone, not just the outliers.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's what I was going to say, is that the DEI as a premise is good. In its actual execution, it's terrible. As you mentioned, Concord was a really good example. Like people, the problem with DEI, right? The main problem, and I think most people that have looked at it and don't like it is simply because stuff is forced on people, and you cannot force things on people that people do not want. It's just a simple, like, common sense thing. Like, people don't want something, you cannot force it on them.
Inclusion to me would mean there was a choice.
Well, exactly, right? A choice.
That's the thing.
You create a game with a bunch of characters that are very heavily aimed towards a certain demographic. Fine. That's fine. If you want to do that with a game, you do that. But don't be upset when people don't buy it. That's really the ultimate... if you don't want to make money from something, if you realize you're
when they spent that much on it.
But yeah, but they're aiming
how many hundreds of millions? It's ridiculous.
Well, exactly, they're aiming it at a very small market, and I'm not saying don't write stuff for a market or whatever, but just don't be upset when it sells virtually no copies. That's just common sense. You've got to make games. If you want to make money, you've got to make it for the masses. It's just the way it is. And or at least a niche, like a niche of people that you know will buy your game. You know, like, I don't know, like Dark Souls games, they appeal to like a certain demographic, me being one of them, you know. But also, you know, you've got other types of games that people will play, specifically types of games that are aimed at people, like survival games. You know, your big survival games, you know, you played Ark.
Oh yeah,
for like 5 million hours. God knows how long you played it, but I think it was like closing in on 10,000 hours, wasn't it? You're like some crazy man.
Yeah, I think it was a little north of that. Yeah.
Blimey,
it's a bit nuts, yeah.
Yeah, that is nuts. But that's what I'm saying.
It was one of those games that was so bad, but it was also amazing. You know, it's just annoying as hell. But yeah.
But
it's.
but I mean, like the DEI aspect of like gaming has gone back to like when you started to include stuff in games that was trying to include other people, which I don't mind that. If you want to have like the option to be transgender, if you want to have the option to do this, that, and the other, but what I'm trying to say is that it should not be forced into the person to have to be able to play their game how they want to play it.
I'll actually tell you a game that did it perfectly.
Go on.
Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate is a great example. Has probably all of that inclusivity in it, and I loved the game. We played that together. And you know, I loved that game, and it definitely had all aspects of that in it. But they did it in a way that was inclusive without, you know, forcing people to play a certain style of game. You know, I think Dragon Age was the problem is they tried to like literally force it down everyone's throat in every, you know, within the story as well, and it wasn't believable. It wasn't believable was the other thing. The suspension of disbelief was not possible. You know, you had a lot of these scenes that were aimed at, you know, these minority people. I know that you want to make them inclusive, but you're gonna alienate another huge portion of gamers that don't want to really experience that, and that's a hard thing to understand, right? I get it that people are like, why would you feel that way? Be inclusive, people should be accepting, but it breaks immersion for people, and some people just feel that way, and unfortunately, like, that's the reason it's not going to get popular. I mean, I'm not saying it won't in the future. I mean, maybe, but now is not the time for that. People don't want that forced in down. You got to let them do it naturally. And as you said, Baldur's Gate did it well. That was very inclusive, and people bought that.
Provided a choice.
Yeah, the choice.
That's the simple choice. You take away choice, and then you've ruined it. You have to give choice. And that choice also includes including them in other games. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. As far as I'm concerned, if a character looks cool, I'll play it. But for some people, if a character sort of feels like it represents them, they'll play it. So put those characters in there. That's fine. I have not got an issue with that at all. But you do it in a way that Baldur's Gate did it, where the people are all part of a big story. Like, the whole thing meshed together so well. Like, the studio, you can tell they actually thought about it properly. They didn't just suddenly chuck a whole bucket of everything in.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of other games that have done it well as well. Like Dragon Quest, Dragon Quest 11 had a very camp like character, which actually is one of my favorite characters in the game, I might add. So like, it's just the fact that they did it in a way that was, he was just a natural character. He came across as natural, as opposed to forced as well. It's like that's what I'm saying. It's like forced upon people in a way that's unnatural. That's where I think DEI has gone wrong. Like, you should just make it more natural and just easier, better implemented. Allow people to have choices, and don't make it so that it's a requirement to have to do that, like they did in Dragon Quest. And obviously, the point is that people have spoken on that as well, and you have to either respect it or just go and work in some other sector that's not going to like trigger you. Because clearly a lot of people triggered about the fact that this existed, and it's just a fact of nature. Like, it's just a fact of humankind, and when people don't like something, they speak clearly, and they spoke with their wallets in this instance, and you have to respect that. You do, in a business anyway, from a business perspective.
Yeah, you don't turn around and then insult the gamers that didn't like your game.
Yeah, I think one guy did that from Concord, and he got absolutely
really. Yeah, that is a piss poor response.
He got his cheek slapped for sure, like big time. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like people disregarding people's opinions on not liking something. Thousands and thousands of people didn't buy it, even though it was the budget behind it was enormous. What was it? 100 million? 100 million?
I'd have to look at it again, but it was over 100 million, I believe.
Yeah, it was a lot, right? They poured an absolute fortune into that, Sony, and I bet they're crying into their tissues, or they were at the time, about having to close that down. I know they did a recent tweet where they did what was it, tweet or X, whatever it's called these days, or Elon Musks thing, but they literally shut down the studio completely. So all of that work that they put in, the whole thing, the game as well, was like fully canned. I mean, that must be one hell of a hard pill to swallow. I mean, big time. I wouldn't want to have to foot that kind of bill and then realise that you've literally made absolutely zero out of it, and given yourself a reputation smash as well in the process as well. It's just it's not good.
It seems a lot of companies are making some big mistakes at the moment.
Yeah, now, I just, on the good side, I want to talk about Last of Us 2 briefly on this DEI thing. I don't think you have that much of a take on it. I don't know if you've played them or not.
No, I haven't played that one.
Last of Us 2, people give that a lot of shit about DEI, because the guy, I can't remember his name, that writes the game, he apparently has an agenda. But to be honest, if that agenda is just the fact that Ellie's like a lesbian or something, I don't care about any of that. It felt very natural. The whole story was good. I watched and I was thoroughly gripped by the whole of The Last of Us, both the first game and the second game. I thought the second game was actually way better, and the story was excellent from beginning to end. I don't think I had a bad word to say about it, and the ending was insane. Like, I don't want to give any spoilers because people are going to maybe go away and play Last of Us 2. And if you haven't...
Last of Us, it was like this post-apocalyptic thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like a zombie.
How in what way would her being a lesbian affect or adversely affect the storyline in any way, shape or form?
I don't think it was just that. There was some other things. But I've heard like people saying that he had an agenda and stuff. I just don't agree with it. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't agree with people getting upset about that. DEI in some cases was bad. But on Last of Us 2, that's just people being... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's like, always
people who want a problem.
Yes, there's people that push the agenda with DEI on that is just rubbish. It's nonsense. The game was good. It had no real problem. It played naturally. It didn't have an agenda. I don't see how anyone could possibly see there was an agenda there. The story was about survival and about relationships and humanity. I mean, it was a very good propagator of like how humans would live in an apocalyptic age. I always find that fascinating in any of the sort of apocalyptic situations, how we live in a civil society, but outside of that we have all kind this just all hell breaks loose and civil law and stuff breaks down and people become these kind of it's like The Walking Dead. It's not really about the undead people. It's more about humans than it is about the undead. That's the irony. Like, it's it's meant to be about the undead, but it's mainly about how bad humans are.
It's how uncivilized we are without civilization.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're deep down. This is the thing. I had a conversation. I had a conversation with a friend about this. and you know, the whole conversation was he thinks that humans would be good in general, like we'd be good in a world where there was no laws. And I was like, no, I don't think. Maybe there may be pockets of people that would. I mean, eventually that's how we became civilized, but there would be a lot of people looking for some serious.
I think, unfortunately, in most of these games, especially like in The Walking Dead as the TV show, you've got these pockets of resistance, like bad people. Let's just say bad is such a normal word, isn't it? But reality, I think, would be the other way around. There'd be pockets of very small groups of good people, and the rest would be bad.
It'd just be like
maybe I'm a bit of a pessimist, but I think without the law, there's a lot of people. I've worked nights for a long time, and I have experience in it. And I think without law, people would just be. It would be crazy.
Yeah, it'd be mass murder everywhere. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, so my friend out there knows who it is. Like, if he's probably listening as well, he's gonna be like, yeah, that's me. So he's gonna know that. I know he'll listen to this podcast as well. So you know who you are out there, and obviously, you know, Kraken's got the same kind of perspective as me. So anyway, like, moved a bit off topic, because that was what we're talking about, Walking Dead, and we were meant to be talking about DEI. So I think we went slightly off topic there. So let's bring it back. But I think, you know, I think we've said what we need to say about DEI. You know, what does it mean to you, listeners, or anyone watching this podcast? What do you think about it? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? You know, give your opinion down below. We'd love to hear it. Moving on to the next segment. This one's a funny one. It's Elon Musk's PoE2 Chinese boosting account that he had. It's just hilarious. Like, I watched it.
I mean, why? Why though?
I don't understand, because he's got this, like, the dude is the richest guy in the world. Was he worth like 440 billion or something like that? He's like loaded beyond like our imagination. And the guy cares about being like some top player in the world. It is like 18th position PoE2, like hardcore character. Now, the first thing that's a problem is, according to I think Kriparian and a few other people like watched it. I think Charlie or Penguin Z's or whatever his name is were like reviewing it, because I watched a couple of their videos. And basically the premise was like he'd have to be online like constantly since the game came out to get to that position. And dude, it's Elon Musk. What's he gonna do? Sitting there on his like whatever his computer he's got, probably the most expensive computer known to humankind. But he's not gonna be sitting there doing that. He's got business. He's got business to do. He's got to run SpaceX. He's got to run Tesla. He's got to run X. You know, he's got all of these other crypto businesses. He's probably got.
Still, you play when you have time. Otherwise, why are you playing it? Like, it seems so silly to get to that level and have absolutely none of the skills developed to be at that level.
The point is, he wouldn't have been able to get there anyway. He's got no time to do it.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck on the why. Like, why would you do that? Like, I can imagine in WoW and stuff, it didn't really make that much of a difference until it got to raids, but this is something that he chose to stream as well. Especially like showing that he had no clue what was going on the screen.
That's what made it absolutely absurd. Like,
it is absurd.
Trying to click like the maps, and he didn't know what to do, and he's like to me an in-game account, and he can't click the right area because the map's not relevant to the location. Like doing other things, like was it a Chaos Orb or something, Chaos Gem? I mean, I'm not that far. You and me haven't played that far into PoE. I think we're like level 30 or something. But like, just listening
to one of the most valuable items in the game.
Yeah, like Kriparian said he's been playing like, I don't know, hundreds of hours, and he's got 9 of them, and he's played for like 1,000 hours probably, and he had like 9 of them, and the guy like walked past it as if it was nothing, which it just instantly didn't know what he's doing. Like, he doesn't, like, that's how it is. Like, it's so obvious, but I think he admitted to it eventually, but it took a while of him having to deliberate and decide how he's going to coach it.
Does that mean his account now gets banned?
Well,
he gets banned from the game.
Well, no, he died. I think his character died like about a day after this video went out. Someone like screenshotted his character dying, and they were
I just mean in their terms of service. I'm pretty sure account sharing and boosting services are illegal, aren't they?
We're talking about Elon Musk here. I mean, he'd just go, it's 10 grand sharp. That's it.
It would still be funny if they did, though.
Yeah, I just think he'd just buy. The thing is, he could buy 10,000 accounts. Like
He'd probably buy the company as in a spy.
like those guys that were doing the boosting for him, I guarantee you, they were on some serious bank. Those dudes.
They've all got Lamborghinis now.
I'm sure they were being paid very, very handsomely because for Elon, I mean, like chump change. Here's a couple 100,000. Just level my character to 80 or whatever, or 100 or whatever it was, like max. When it wasn't max, it was like 97.
He would have had shifts round the clock.
Yeah, but watching the video was so funny because it's just like, dude, why would you do this? Surely. Now, let me make it clear. I don't think Elon's an idiot. Like, a lot of people go, he's an idiot. He's not an idiot. The dude is not an idiot. He's like, I'm sorry, but anyone that thinks that someone can just fluke their way to 440 billion US dollars is not thinking straight. Because to get to that amount, you can't fluke your way to any of that. That requires business nous. And the guy has business nous. He's got a SpaceX. He's got SpaceX, which is literally like one of the leading edge space, exploration. He's breaking records for that. Yeah, he's had some fuck ups. I've seen like his rocket launches has been fucked. One of them like just fucked up and blew up in the middle of the air. But in general, he's pretty on point. He's done some amazing. His Tesla cars, again, have broken some. He was really like the pioneer in front of that. I'm sure someone in the comments is going to go, there was another one before. Maybe there was. Tesla was the one that really broke out into the public though, like as a sort of, certainly as like a high value one. So, and they've kind of paved the way for all of the actual auto driving on the roads and stuff. They kind of have like very advanced, internal. I don't know how they do it, but it's impressive for me to see it. Anyway, like getting away from the point is he's not stupid. I mean, he just isn't objectively. Does he do stupid things? Yes. Like this, this PoE thing was dumb. I don't know what he was thinking, but he probably just didn't care enough to have taken. Like, he's got more important things to do than be like, hey, let's check, do a crash course in PoE so you don't look like an idiot when you play it. I can't imagine Elon Musk doing that. Be like, okay, I'm playing on level 97 like character that's endgame on hardcore. Do you want to just give me a quick rundown? No, I don't see him doing that. He probably just jumped on.
He could have. The baddest thing is he could have all done it on purpose to drive up the sort of gaming image, just so that, oh my god, Elon did this, and it's a news story, isn't it? And it gets his name out there.
I don't think he'd do that, and the reason I don't think he'd do that is I don't think anyone wants to make themselves look like an idiot, especially Elon Musk. Like, I don't think
he cares what people think of him, as long as they're talking about him. That's the thing.
Maybe
the guy didn't get where he was at by giving a crap about what people thought of him.
But he's not Asmongold, Asmongold's the sort of person who doesn't care about people like purposely thinking he's an idiot when he's clearly not. I think Elon's he's a bit more egotistical when it comes to that in terms.
Well, he's done some interesting retaliations, let's say, but yeah, I mean, I just don't think that he really gives that much of a crap about the gaming side of it. And as people are talking about him, it's still people talking about him.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right. I mean, there's no real way to know any of these things because Elon's is, as you said, he could be doing it. But it seems odd as well, though, to like purposely do. Like it seems more feasible that he just didn't know what he was doing. That come like.
Oh yeah, no. Well, most likely, yeah.
I think
it would just be incredibly funny if it was just this whole.
Well, he said he was like one of the best. There was a time when he was like one of the best in Quake. I mean, I don't know how much truth
draws all his records into account, doesn't it?
Well, that's literally what it was saying. It's also like, to be fair, that again, there's going to be Diablo players, Diablo 4 players out there that are probably going to like shit all over me for this, but Diablo 4 is like a low skill game in my opinion, versus PoE 2. It's just an easier game, like objectively, and probably that's the reason he got away with his D4 character, because he had a high level D4 character and nobody realized it when he did that, because it's a lot easier to play D4 and get away with it without knowing what you're doing, whereas PoE 2 is a lot less forgiving, as we well know, having played it and fought already a couple of difficult bosses. You can't really get away with not knowing what you're doing as well. as you could do in D4. But look, I haven't played D4 like in its current state. I played it on its release, and I found the game generally just very easy.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, it was disappointing and easy in my opinion. Like versus like the older Diablos and stuff like that, which I think I mean, maybe not D3. D3 was also quite easy, but D2 certainly was more like. I mean, PoE 2 is like kind of like a real sort of, or PoE and PoE 2 like are sort of like what do you call them when you say they're like the follow on from D2, like the people say that they come from that era of Diablo. And D3,
they're the real
like,
ancestors.
Yeah, the real sort of like next version, next gen games. And I happen to agree with that. I think PoE is much more in terms of ARPGs, like more like the original Diablo, and Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 are more homogenized for a wider audience. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to like say there's a problem. If you want to look, as far as I'm concerned, D4 is a sort of game you come back from a long day at work. And you don't want to have to like be on like hardcore mode in PoE like you are in PoE, where you got to have your brain on like maximum capacity to make sure you don't screw up. And D4 you can just kind of sit there, you know, eat your dinner and just sort of just kill some stuff and not have to super mega hardcore it. So there's nothing wrong with that. I understand a lot of people play games in that manner, and that's for a lot of people that's the way to enjoy games, you know. Fair play to you if that's your style. I'm just simply stating that I think that's why Elon got away with that with D4, but not with PoE 2. So yeah, that's really my take on him. Do you have anything else to say about on Elon before we move on?
No, not really.
No. All right. Well, we can move on then to the last subject of this podcast, which is a very broad one. So I think we're going to just discuss a few things, but we're looking at JRPGs through the ages, sort of in the last 30-40 years, and you know our views on them. Obviously we touched on Final Fantasy 7 early in the first segment, but you know the golden age of JRPGs as far as I'm concerned will always be the late 90s. It was just the best era for games. You know, the budgets were low, people had to just solely survive on imagination to make the games interesting, because graphics weren't really like cutting edge the way they are now. So the people had to come up with interesting stories to differentiate themselves, and some of the best games came from that era. I mean, obviously, Xenogears is probably one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. Obviously, Final Fantasy 7 as well is up there, the original. But there were so many other good games, Legend of Dragoon.
Oh man, Legend of Dragoon. I was literally just about to say that one.
Yeah, that was a good
That's
one.
such a great game. Yeah, really enjoyed that one.
What about you, Phil? Like, what were some of your favorite games from the late 90s? Do you agree with me as well? Do you think that was the golden age of JRPGs? Do you think it's
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Because there was a lot of thought put into the story, and whilst even though we were younger, so we literally like read everything, so we're like, oh my god, that's amazing. You kind of look at like the grand scope of it. If you're picking up a JRPG and it's filled with just boring quests, go here, go there, collect them, kill those. There's nothing really putting it in there. They're just giving you all this filler but no story now, and I think that's what's been lost. Like back then, the stories actually they built the game around the story. Now it feels like story is a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. And the thing is, like, mechanics have always played an important part more lately in like games. I mean, mechanics are normally like, how can we make them more in depth? I am actually a fan of simplicity, not because I don't enjoy complex games. I do enjoy complex games, but it really depends on how the complexity is made. Like, I enjoy like a complex game like Dark Souls or Sekiro or any of these other like hard games that require like good visuals and understanding like mechanics and how the game works, but it's intuitive. It's the unintuitive nature of mechanics that are thrown into a lot of games that are just unnecessary, or just just creating unnecessary parts of the game that make it boring or make the game lag or just ruin the experience. You know, back then it was very simple. You know, you'd have turn-based games. your selection. And this was pretty much into the early 2000s as well. I mean, what was that game? Oh, what was that game that we used to love that we played with? The one that had the little spiral timer. Do you remember?
Oh crap! You're not going to talk about the Judgment Ring, are you?
That's it, Judgment Ring. What was the name of the game then?
I'm trying to remember. That's really annoying because I was literally thinking about that again.
I loved that game as well. Like, Shadow Covenant, was it? No. Is it
Something like that, yeah.
Something like someone's going to be screaming it in the chat because you know when they watch this they'll be like, yes. But I think it was Shadow Covenant. But
Shadow Hearts.
Shadow Hearts. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want Covenant. Shadow Hearts. So we did get it over there. The Judgment Ring.
One of them later was Shadow Hearts Covenant. It was number 3. I think.
That's what I thought. Shadow Covenant. That's right. It was Shadow Hearts Covenant. Yeah, that was like the second one, I think, or the third one. I think it was the second one. I think the third one was like a new world or something. I can't remember the third one, but it was like a long time ago. Yeah. If anyone's like under the age of 20 here, they probably have no idea what we're talking about. So, but if you are that young, you need to go and check it out because if you like JRPGs, I thoroughly recommend Shadow Hearts. Yeah, and it was like the Judgment Ring when you used to do like actions. They had like this little wheel and you had to like time. It was kind of like a bit like what's those things called? We got to press the buttons in time. I always forget the name of them.
It's like quick time event.
Quick time event. Yeah. So it's like a quick time event, but with like.
Depending on how close you get to the middle of the marker, you can hit a crit, or you can potentially summon these creatures. It's just a very cool game.
It's excellent. It's like one of the best of that era, and obviously, like in the early 2000s, you got Final Fantasy X, which was a really great game. Vagrant Hearts as well was a 90s game.
Yeah.
Vagrant Story. Not Vagrant Stone.
Vagrant Story.
Vagrant Story.
Vagrant Story.
Yeah. Get the name.
The weapon system in that was incredible. I loved breaking down the weapons and using the various parts to make a new weapon.
Dear Square Enix, please remake it. Please remake that game. Because it was excellent. It would do so well to give that to a modern audience. Same goes for FF Tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics. One of the best stories in the Final Fantasy universe, in my opinion, and like hugely underrated game. And it is available on so many platforms. You can even get it on your phone, I believe. It's a really great game. I assume a lot of people have probably played it from younger generations that got access to the phones. But it is a great game. If you haven't played that, that's another really, really good one. I mean, these are all like gems from that era. And literally go on, was it? Like we were talking about the other one the other day when we were talking. It was what's the Cocoon game? Jade Cocoon, right?
Jade Cocoon, yeah.
Right, these are like really like generally like people say they're known, but it's really quite obscure in today's world. These games, like most people won't know who they are. Jade Cocoon was great.
The monster breeding one, wasn't it? You could mix your monsters together to make entirely new ones. So you could like put an armadillo with a little gorilla or something, and it would give an armored gorilla.
Yeah. That Monster Rancher game was similar to that. Do you remember we played Monster Rancher?
Monster Rancher was insane. The fact that you had to swap out discs from your other stuff just to catch something was amazing.
I remember like literally going downstairs and like taking my entire parents' CD collection, and then I came back and thought they'd been robbed, and there was like me upstairs with like a stack of like 200 CDs, like putting them all into the PlayStation, like to try and make the perfect concoction of Monster from them. I mean, it's archaic looking into at today's standards, like the way that they do things.
It was still a really cool mechanic. It was a physical thing you had to do outside of the console that required it.
For the time,
in order to unlock these extra things in the game. It was brilliant.
For the time, it was amazing. I mean, some of those games. I remember the ones on Dreamcast as well. They used to have like little mini games on the actual memory sticks, and you used to. They had that for. It was for. I swear, it was a Final Fantasy game on there. I'm trying to remember, but I think there was something similar to that anyway. And you played like the little game. It was like a Chocobo game, and you had to like complete it. And then when you plugged it back in, you got like some bonus in the actual game, which was really cool. I mean, memory cards is kind of an archaic thing, definitely now, like because there's just absolute no need for that at all. But back then, like memory cards, I remember like going around to people's houses or like to your house, bring your memory card. That was the thing. Because you got the game.
You've got to think though, did they create memory cards on purpose? Because they could have had onboard memory in these devices. But they chose to have that external extra thing that cost you what,
I just
$5.99 or something for the cheap ones.
Yeah, but I just explained the reason for that is so you could take it around your mate's house.
Yeah, no, yeah, fair.
And they also had two of them, so that if you were playing like I don't know, like Tekken or something, you could have your personal save loaded up, so that you could play with your characters, you know, or whatever, you know, this kind of thing. So I think that's the reason that exists in general, was so you could take them to other places, or if your PlayStation like ceased to exist,
I think you'd have to look at what games came out on release for the PlayStation 1, wouldn't you? To really know.
Yeah, but I mean, also makes sense as well if your PlayStation is kaput, like, and is ended. Like, it's you can't really compare it with today's thing because we got like cloud saves and stuff, so your stuff's backed up everywhere. Like, you know, back then you didn't have that, so if your PlayStation bit the dust, you'd lose everything. You'd be screwed. Like, so the fact that the memory cards existed was like a really smart like way to never lose any of your data, you know. The problem was like how much stuff you could save in them, which was not good.
All.
Yeah, it was like one spot for like one game, and nowadays I've got like I don't know how many save files I got on my PlayStation, but it's terrifyingly high.
Didn't the PS1 have like 8 save slots or something? And if you had too many games, you literally had to buy another card just to be able to save new games.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, it was crazy. But I mean, just moving past that now, because obviously we've gone a bit off the top subject again, is looking at today's modern JRPGs, which I actually still think is still a lot of content out there that's like actually worth time out. The first one I want to bring up, which is actually something I'm not a fan of, is Persona 5. I couldn't get into it. I really wanted to, and I know that people again going to be like throwing shade on me for this because Persona 5 is generally considered a masterpiece amongst modern society when it comes to JRPGs. I just think I'm a bit old for Persona 5's story. I liked Metaphor, Fantasio, so I thought that was like way better, mainly because it wasn't like being at school, you know. It was a more interesting subject, and you know, I cleared that. There's a lot of good games that still come out, but I mean, you know, versus the stuff from the late 90s or early 2000s, to me is like it doesn't hold as good. But I think JRPGs are less popular than they were back then. I think they were a lot more popular for gamers. The demographic was higher for those types of games. I feel like people aim more now.
Yeah, we used to go well out of the way, didn't we? We had to go to like Computer Exchange in London before it became a big chain.
The good old days.
And get the import games.
Getting the import games. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to get like the US games because some of them came out like way before they came out in Europe. And then you'd have to get like something sorted, like make sure your TV was like NTSC compatible, because you had a PAL television would not work with NTSC games. And that goes back to like all of the earlier consoles as well, like everything that was on cartridge, like your SNES and Mega Drive / Genesis. I know in America they call it Genesis. And I remember my parents bought me like a game in the US when we went on holiday for like the Mega Drive / Genesis, and I went back home and I was so excited to play it, and I plugged it in and it was just like not compatible because it was an American game and it couldn't like work on a PAL device nor on like a PAL screen. So I remember that being like an actual science back then versus today where you can just play anything, anywhere, anytime. You can play a JP game on your PlayStation. If I went to Japan, which I have done already twice, but if I went back there and bought a Japanese game, I could just plug it into my PlayStation. I'm pretty sure it will work straight away. So we don't have those problems anymore. But I think that's another reason, right? It was just like, but we did is go down to Computer Exchange and just get like the best JRPGs available at the time, and there was always like really good games out. I just think they're few and far between now. Not to say they don't exist, they're just not as many of them. You know,
I think people take for granted as well worldwide releases, because remember there were some that didn't even come to England. They never had a PAL version of the game. It was an American or an Asian version, and that was it.
Yeah,
there was a couple of RPGs that we played that were like that.
Yeah, it was the sort of thing you didn't hear about like till like the internet, like 10, 15 years later. And you'd be like, oh, that got released? I don't remember that. Oh yeah, it only came out in Japan or whatever, and you never even saw it come here. Yeah, I mean, it was a different era. I think that's what I'm saying. Like, it's everything's just available everywhere now, so we don't have that. But also, there's a massive amount of games being released. Just there's so much content to consume. I remember it being like, you know, a game would come out and that would be it. You wouldn't get another JRPG for like a consistent amount of time. So you had to like really make the most of that. And nowadays, kids, younger people have like such a wide variety. You know, you have to be really outstanding now. It's kind of like the people that are like on Metacritic that are like, if it's under 8 out of 10, it's garbage, which is just insane. Yeah. That's an insane kind of mentality.
Yeah, not everyone shares the same, opinion on a game either. I'm sure there was some games that I've played in the past and a lot of people hated, but I actually took a fair amount of enjoyment out of.
Well, yeah, exactly. And plus also for people like as well, you got these things now where people like hate bomb like a game because of like one little thing that upset them, and they just go in there and just give everything a 0 just because they didn't like one small aspect of the game. And I just don't understand that kind of mentality. I don't think I ever will. Like, people should just review them with like some level of reason and just be like, okay, it wasn't great, or it's a 6 out of 10, or it's a 4 out of 10 even because it really was below average. But just giving something a 0 because one small thing upset you is just, I mean, it's just not.
Yeah, they go very personal about it, don't they? Like the game should have been made to their exact specifications, or it's trash. And I find that kind of attitude towards games and game development, it's only going to harm the industry.
Exactly. But I mean, we're moving a little bit off subject there as well. But just to quickly go back, like I was thinking about the reasons that I still like about old JRPGs is the charm aspect. The charm of old JRPGs, and it's not just a nostalgia thing. I guess it is some level, but I play like modern games. Like if you take the Tales series, for instance, not Tales of Legend of Heroes, like Tales, like Trails, sorry, like those games, like there's like 20 of them now, but they still like abide by the older like style, like charm. They've got some charming music, very like old school Japanese like role-playing game style music that's from the 90s, and they keep that charm consistent. Even though they've updated the graphics, they keep the charm there, and that's really what I liked about the older games, and also what I like about the newer games that have brought that to the table. Most recently, I think it is Romancing Saga 2. They did a remake for the modern consoles from the original, which I think was like a 1996 game, and I really like that as well. It's kept the charm of the original, and I think it's transposed well. I mean, it is quite hard, but a lot of the games of those periods were anyway. So, but it's good that it brings it to a new audience. I'm always a fan of like older games that have been like redone and brought to the audience. And when I say new, I don't mean after like a couple of years. Like, what was that game that they brought out? I think they brought out like a game that has been out for like 5 years and they remastered it. It's like, really? Come on, it came out on PS4. It doesn't need a remaster this quickly.
I don't know.
I think it's Horizon Zero Dawn that did it. They did like a PS5 version, and the people are going to be like, oh, it only costs like £5 to upgrade it. It's just like, it doesn't need to be at all. It's like literally the PS4 version and it's fine. Like,
well, just be grateful it didn't do an ARC. They were going to do a free upgrade, and then suddenly everyone has to not only buy the game again, they also have to buy half of the bloody DLC stuff and all the extras that they've suddenly decided to strap on. So, realistically, £5 is nothing. If it's an upgrade in graphics, sure.
I suppose. I mean, I'm not really that fussed about it, but yeah, I do agree with you. Like in terms of DLC costs and stuff, but I mean, we're gonna get into that into the next episode, and I think also on that note, I think we're pretty much finished our content for today. So I don't know if you've got any comments you want to add before we wrap up for today.
No, just thank you everyone for listening, and hopefully, if you enjoyed it, pop back and say hi again.
Yeah. As Kraken said, firstly, thank you everyone for attending. I mean, I don't know how many peoples we even had. We might be literally talking to no one, which is more than likely. But but for anyone that's watching it like post-release, thank you for taking the time to watch this entire podcast. I hope it was entertaining, informational. Probably not, because some of these news articles are about 2 weeks old. There's a lot of women getting apart. Yeah, we're like old codgers. It would take a while to get, not to get to the details, but
that's the cobwebs out of my brain.
Exactly. But yeah, we hope that you enjoyed what we had to talk about and that you found interesting. And of course, we always want to hear from you guys. One of our key objectives for this podcast is to be interactive with our audience. So whenever we get one, if we get one, so always feel free to voice your opinion, whether you agree with us, disagree with us. We want to hear from you, and we may mention you in a follow-up podcast. We may make that thing like talking about like people's comments from previous podcasts and giving our opinions and thoughts on what you guys have to say. Last thing I'll say is the old, I hate saying this because it's actually annoying, but yeah, if you do like us, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a kiss. No, don't give us a kiss. No, you can give us a kiss if you want to. I just thrown that in there because it's so being inclusive and all that. So yeah. So yeah, it's bye from me and bye from Kraken, and thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week for the next episode.